Thank you, Nita. I'm going to move a little faster. We're running a little bit late. But I will, during my presentation, ask some people from TLA to stand up. If you're interested in what I'm talking about at that point, I'll point out the individual that you should talk to afterwards. So what do you know about tech transfer? It's been around a long time, and basically, I think a lot of people think of it as a black box. Yeah, we get inventions. We're going to get 250 inventions from faculty this year. Our fiscal year runs from June to July. End of June to year later, July. And then what happens to them? And then years later, we might see a story or something like, oh, based upon a university invention. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and let's look into it. Well, a couple things first, and no matter how you cut it, university inventions are very early stage technology. They're seldom done from the perspective of a product. They're mostly done from the perspective of faculty pushing the envelope of science. That's what they get rewarded for. That's what the federal government pays them for. In almost any grant applications, except for maybe some translational research ones, there's no mention of product or commercialization or whatever. The faculty are there as part of the national innovation system to push the envelope, to understand the phenomena and to come up with explanations of why things happen. That doesn't mean a product. Now, there may be, many cases, some interesting things that emerge from that, and that's where we step in. So I don't think I've been doing this for over 25 years. I don't think I've had one technology that has gone from invention to maturation in less than 5 years. We have one that might be close. It might be make it in 4, if everything works out. But those are usually software. Other things that we have, and I'll show you in a second, about half of what we have is biomedical. 10, 12 years is the norm. So as you can see there, if you were where I'm standing, about half of these are non-biomedical, and about half are biomedical. And the biomedical ones are devices, diagnostics, medical therapeutics, and some analytics. On the non-medical side, everything else. Basically, a lot of software, a lot of devices that are used in systems. And the thing that's most interesting, as we mature as an operation, TLA is 3 years old, 3.5. As we mature as an operation, we're seeing things that we hadn't seen 3 years ago. We're seeing things that are clearly over the horizon, technologies that will, if they ever are developed and commercialized, will be next generation technologies. Most of our technology comes from the College of Science. Next is College of Medicine. Engineering, optics wrestles above its weight class as a percentage, and agricultural life sciences and others, which would be many of the other colleges, but also the Eller College of Management. So a little bit about our process. First off, to represent it, you usually have to represent it in linear fashion. It is completely nonlinear. So you gotta think in a back and forth kind of perspective. We get the invention disclosure. As I say, we'll get about 250 this year. And we're increasing at about a 10% clip a year. And we do a very preliminary, you could call it a broad aim assessment, a preliminary assessment. It's typically done by a licensing manager. That's the individual who is working with the inventor and probably has had a relationship with that person because they spend about half their time physically located in the college that they're servicing. And we also have students and they do what amounts to a patent prior art search for us. And we then put it in front of a business intelligence person that also has a lot of other people, students, et cetera. What we're really trying to do is get a perspective of the technology, trying to understand what the inventor's done, what's the science behind it, the technology itself, what's the general marketplace, because again, most of these inventions that we get are not a result of a problem in the market. They're a result of faculty doing research. And what we have to do is completely the opposite of what almost everybody else does in business world. And that is, they listen to their customer, the customer says there's a problem with what you're delivering, and then they improve it. We don't deliver anything to customers. Our customers are the federal government and the people who read journal articles. And so what we have to do is we have to find out what the market is and sometimes what the product is. We can have really interesting technology and we go, okay, what can that do? So, and other times it's very obvious. If you have a drug and you know the pathway in which this drug is involved in and you know how to interrupt that pathway, then you know what you have and you know what you have to go through, and it only takes a couple $100 million in about 10 years. So what we're looking for early on is what we call the voice of the market. And the way we do that is we go to people who are in the market. We have basically 3 different ways that we do that. First is we do what you would expect, the Google searching, the library. We work with librarians in the university library system, and we do, your paper exercise, if you will. What's the size of this market? What are the market leaders, et cetera, et cetera. But then we try to go to individuals who are experts in the market, subject matter domain experts, and that goes to my first introduction back here, Eric Smith. Eric Smith is our network manager. Eric has the responsibility for the 1,300 or so people that we turn to as subject matter domain experts. So if you spent 15 years in a particular field, and most people don't move that far from the field of which they were trained in, and you've been a biz dev, you've been investing, you've been marketing, you've been in R&D, whatever that might be in that field, and sales, you probably have a perspective of the customer. One that our faculty probably don't have because, again, that's not what they're doing. So we need to talk to you, and it is an opening and evolving, no checklist kind of discussion. So if you represent that kind of a market or that kind of experience, and you're interested in working with us, get a hold of Eric when you leave. The second is we have commercialization partners. These are of 2 types. One are volunteers that help, excuse me, volunteers that help us. And the second is what we call mentors in residence. Those are actually half-time employees, and I'm not sure if we have anybody here. So we have 3 mentors in residence, thank you. And they actually work with us and get involved in cases. Cases from specific areas, biomedical, therapeutics, and other kinds of technologies. They sit with faculty, and it's different when you have somebody that's sitting with faculty who's been in that industry for 15, 20, 30 years, as opposed to a university person who has to cover all kinds of different technologies. Those are people that are unique to a kind of entrepreneur in residence kind of environment, and so they help us understand the voice of the market. Once we get a handle on this, then we seek to protect the IP. And we usually protect the IP through patents. Sometimes we can use copyrights too. Not as strong a protection, generally speaking, but it can also work. And in about 25 of the cases a year, that's what we're running on an average right now, we do what we call asset demonstration. And asset demonstration is a $50,000 grant to faculty, where as the faculty have been working with us through this process and understanding and feedback about what they're hearing when they're in a room with 5 or 6 people, or they're Skyping into a call with people throughout the country, and people are asking them back and forth, and we're going in a kind of discussion format about what that technology can do. They are the intellectual leaders in it. They are our internal customer that we have to keep satisfied. If we don't, they don't give us anything to work with. And we work with them, and then this kind of evolving kitchen cabinet of domain experts, entrepreneurs in residence, mentors in residence, licensing people, some students, and come to a conclusion through a proposal development process, which is kind of like a pre-SBIR or STTR. And we look at what the experiments that are necessary, whether it be evaluation or build a prototype or whatever that might be, and then what the scope of work is going to be, what the budget's going to be, what the deliverables are going to be. And we go through a process where about 15 of us meet on Monday afternoon and go through these and are vetted, and the technologies are discussed. And when it seems like we got it right, we move on and fund that. They usually go on for 3 to 5 months. So then what we've done is taken this raw asset, understand it, protect it, and then put it on the very early stage of a trajectory for growth. And there'll have to be usually millions of dollars of further development to get it to a product. But we started on that process so that anybody who is next in the value chain, which would be an investor, an entrepreneur who wants to start up a company, or a company that wants to license the technology, can look at it and say, oh, your technology is demonstrated to begin to do what we're interested in because we think we got the right partner in place. And also, we've proven that the faculty member is interested in doing that. Not just more research, but actually putting on a different hat, which is a development hat. So from there, it's really a question of what's the market for this technology, and a lot of other issues around what's the motivating forces that are going to pull this technology into the marketplace. And in many cases, we have an existing company, so that's a license. They get the rights to make, use, or sell the technology through the license contract. We get royalties. And in other cases, it's a startup company, and that could have involved a faculty member, usually does almost in all cases. Not necessarily always as the business driver. As a matter of fact, increasingly as we build a relationship with the community through what Eric's doing and others, we are finding business drivers that'll come into place and say, okay, I get it. I want to license this technology. I want to work with this person who came up with it, who will advance the technology. I like the students that have been his postdocs or graduate students or whatever as the first employees. I want to work with your network of people so I can get advisors together. And I've been successful raising money, building companies before, so I know how to do it. That's our sweet spot. That's where we want to be. Are we there in every case? No. But that's our ideal. That's the optimum for us. That's what we're shooting for. And oftentimes, until we have that, we'll just say we're not there yet. Other times, we're like, okay, this is good enough to go. It's maybe not 100% of what we want, but it still needs to evolve. And So I was just talking more about all the elements that go into that startup preparation, and then the issue is a license to the startup. Last year we did 12, we'll do 13, 14 this year. Here we did altogether exclusive licenses last year, 45. So basically we put 45 shots on goal with new technologies into the marketplace on an exclusive basis, so that company has the resources, that we determine they have the resources and they have the motivation and the responsibility, or they lose the license, so they breach the license, to put that into a development pathway and into the market. So how do you find the right technologies? How do you find the right faculty? There's a couple things you can do. You can go to what's called SciVal. All the universities in Arizona use that. You can go to our website, and all this can be done on the web, and just go to inventions. You can go to any of the sites for the other universities. Go to our website, get on our newsletter. We highlight technologies in that. But in any situation that you're in a very narrow swim lane of what you're interested in and what your expertise is, to find a technology at the university in Arizona, or almost any university, is almost serendipitous. Any university like U of A, that is a top 20 public research university doing $600 million of research a year, the faculty are, in the areas they work, it's like a very narrow but deep well. They don't drill in other areas. They're not competitive. The work that they do and the competition for money from the National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation, has a 5 to 7% payoff. So you can only drill in the fields where you have expertise. And then that's where you get your relative competitive advantage. And so you might be at a 10% payoff. So what you want to do is you want to find the universities that are at the top in your field. You can't go looking at every university. You probably want to search literature, use Google searching by people's names, subject matter searches. You want to find somebody, if you can, that has a proven track record. That'll be on, you can find that out by what was their role. Go into their Vitas on their websites. And then you can vet these folks by talking to people who have worked with them. What you don't want to do is work with somebody who is not interested in commercialization but has really good research. It will not get you anywhere. You need that person because the technology is so early in its stage of development that at the same time that person's not sufficient typically to carry it forward. That's kind of the paradox of the world that we live in. Okay, mentioned a little bit of this. So if you're interested, you can get into our monthly newsletter. It just came out today, I think. But it's on the web, and we have some SBIR resources. We primarily now work with our faculty on SBIR resources and companies that want to work with our faculty. So maybe a faculty would be a sub or something like that. And the person there is Jen. Jen is around? There we go. You've heard Jen Watson. She's your SBIR contact for TLA. Beyond that, I'll be around. You can drop me an email if there's any questions, and thank you.